Welcome to the BearDown podcast presented by Arizona Athletics. I'm Matt Enzer here, joined by Coach Lloyd, head coach Arizona basketball. We're going to talk about Coach Lloyd's story as a student athlete, but also his journey here to Arizona as the head coach of Arizona men's basketball. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Great, good to be here, Matt. First off, they told me I'm going to be down here with some on-air talent. What's going on?
They sold you short. Whoever they were, they sold you short.
And why aren't we doing this at the Baja Cafe?
That's a different question for a different day, Coach. Okay. Appreciate the energy off the bat.
I heard you had something on the menu there.
I did. I had my own Benedict, the Menzer Benedict.
How long did it last?
It went for a weekend special, sold well enough to make the full-time menu, and then about 6 weeks after that, they pulled it because it didn't sell well enough.
Why?
Chicken, pesto, and spinach just wasn't good enough for most people on a
That's
Benedict.
Interesting.
So,
interesting.
Enough about me, Coach. This podcast is the episode of Coach Tommy Lloyd. Growing up in Kelso, Washington, Pacific Northwest, for those who aren't familiar, 50 miles north of Portland, give or take. You played high school basketball. If today version of Coach Lloyd saw Kelso High version of Tommy Lloyd as a player, what's the evaluation?
The same thing Rick Majerus told me when I was in high school, because I had played with a 7-footer named Ryan Chilton, who ended up being a good player and going to Colorado State, but he was getting recruited by Coach Majerus, and Coach Majerus just told me, Tommy, you're a great kid, I just wish you were a little bit bigger and a little bit better.
That's the scouting report for Kelso High star.
That's it.
Coach Lloyd. Now, famously, you went to Walla Walla Community College nearby, where your highlight of your career was the 52-point game. Now, as a coach who preaches offensive efficiency and scoring the ball, give me the scoring breakdown for 52 points. How many shots was that on?
Oh, man. You're asking me some tough questions there. The one thing I think I was 9 for 12 from 3. And then we kind of have to do the math from there. So that was 27.
Yep.
And then 52 minus 27
25.
is 25? 25? Yeah, it is 25. Then I think I made like 9 for 12 from the field too, and must have thrown in a few free throws or something like that.
So it was an efficient 52, not a 30.
Oh, yeah, efficient for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was your career at Walla Walla where you got the nickname Tommy Gunn?
Oh, I don't know. I think that was about the time. Wasn't Tommy Gunn one of the characters like in the Rocky movies or something? And yeah, I don't know where that nickname came from, but I haven't heard it in a while, and I think it's something that's in the past. Let's keep it there.
Okay, but if we're looking ahead, better player for Coach Lloyd, style-wise, do you go Tommy Gunn Lloyd or Liam at Grand Canyon? Who's got the better game for Coach
Liam's
Lloyd?
much better.
Okay,
much better.
He didn't get the Tommy Gunn gene passed down.
No, he actually has decent feet. He can move. I think he can even jump a little bit. Like neither of those things I could do. And he was kind of let's just say he was well taught growing up. I actually enjoyed coaching him a lot. I was able to coach him a lot growing up, and it's one of the things Coach Few let us do is coach our kids, and it was an awesome time for me, and I'm happy that he's on his own path now. And these paths are never easy, no matter if you're a coach's kid or not. But he's on a good path at Grand Canyon, and I'm looking forward to see what he does with it.
So you grew up in the Pacific Northwest. You went to college in the Pacific Northwest. You worked at Gonzaga for 2 decades in the Pacific Northwest. What was your first early memory of Pac-12 basketball, whether you saw it in person or saw it over TV?
Oh, I grew up a sports junkie. So, I remember watching all those, Pac-10 games on, Saturday mornings and stuff like that, watching Arizona and from McKale back in the day, UCLA. And, I just remember following it because, to be honest with you at the time, like, when you're out west, you're still watching Georgetown and Kansas because those were the national games, and the Big East was huge, just because that was it felt like it was on TV all the time. But then watching, the locally it was Pac-10. The WCC I didn't even know anything about at the time, and so I didn't even really know anything about Gonzaga at the time. So just remember watching a lot of those games and up and down I-5 and stuff like that for sure.
So specifically, of that group of games that you remember watching TV, the Arizona basketball team, do you remember a first game or the first team or about the season you would have seen?
I mean, honestly, you're going back. I mean, first things are just like Cactus logo. You know what I mean? Those are the things that like impact me. And obviously Steve Kerr played there. I remember he had a knee brace. Sean Elliott had a knee brace. I was like, man, everybody in Arizona have a knee brace on. Just remember that stuff. And then, then obviously, when I was kind of in college, they had that great run with, Miles Simon and, Mike Bibby, Jason Terry, Damon Stottlemyre before that. And just remember all those great guards they had.
Absolutely. So well documented in your childhood growing up, Coach, that you had an exposure to the international life and culture. Your parents hosted exchange students, and obviously that sort of fueled your interest to travel overseas. Now, was your first overseas trip trying to play professionally in Australia and Germany, or did you make a trip before?
No, I went in high school, like in the summer in high school. My brother actually was an exchange student for a year in Sweden, and that was something I wanted to do. But, just because of high school basketball and opportunities, I didn't do that. So I went in the summer a couple times during high school. Those were my first experiences. And yeah, it's still great memories to this day. And always loved traveling. I mean, I love being at different places, learning about different cultures. And one of the things I found is no matter where you travel, people everywhere are great.
That first summer trip, so the first stamp on the Tommy Lloyd passport is what country? Do you remember?
I went to Sweden and Holland.
Sweden and Holland.
Netherlands, Holland, whatever your preference.
So that was the start of it. And then obviously Australia and Germany post college.
Yeah, post college went to Australia and Germany, and he's had played low level, basketball after college, just to put it that way. And it was just more. It was an awesome life experience just to go over and live in a different place, and met a lot of different friends, and my wife was with me, so we were able to travel a lot. And then kind of in the in-between times, we backpacked. I mean, so we went all through Europe, Africa, spent, like 6 weeks in Zimbabwe, went to Mauritius, Australia, New Zealand, Fiji. I mean, some epic travels back in the day. And when traveling's cool, when you are literally doing it, remember had those books back in the day, How to Do Europe on $40 a day. Like, we had nothing. And so able to travel and stay in hostels and stuff like that, it was awesome.
How about your most recent trip overseas? Where have you gone recently?
This summer. I luckily, with COVID kind of clearing, I hadn't been overseas for a while. Usually when I'm used to going a couple times a year at least. My wife and I took a trip in August when we kind of were able to catch our breath, and we went to the south of France. Domantas Sabonis got married there, so we went to his wedding. And then we went and spent a few days in Barcelona and then came home, and it was awesome. I mean, it was a great vacation, getaway, and yeah, we had a blast.
So if we were playing the Tommy Lloyd passport game, could we list all of the countries you've been to? We'll just start with Europe. And is there any you haven't been to yet?
Haven't been to Portugal. Okay. I mean, you go Spain, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, kind of working my way up there, right? Denmark, Sweden. I haven't been to Finland or Norway. Okay. I know that for sure. And then you just kind of work down that eastern block. I've been to almost all of those. Not as good at naming
Serbia.
them. Yeah. Haven't been to Estonia.
Okay.
How about that? So I owe Kerr a trip. I mean, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. Then you got you would have Slovakia and Czech. There, Austria. Croatia.
So we're guessing only 3 countries.
Haven't been to Slovenia.
Okay, 4.
Haven't been to Slovenia.
You haven't been to.
I don't think I've been to Bosnia either. Okay. I've done Croatia, Serbia, Greece, Turkey. I mean, most of it. I love traveling, and I literally think everybody should do more of it. And I think it's something that would really help our society and our country if people just traveled more. And got to meet more people and learn how to learn about other cultures, be sympathetic for what they're going through, and I think it would be a thing. I mean, I wish every kid, out of high school had to go do a year abroad where they just traveled. I think it would make the world a much better place, but I digress.
But I want to focus on at least that aspect of coaching European players, because you've done a lot of it here. a lot of it at Gonzaga rather, but then now here inheriting a heavy international roster, and also Arizona having a more recent lineage of European players going back to, I'll say, Ivan Radenovic all the way through Lowry Markkanen, Dusan Ristic, DeAndre Ayton, Josh Green. Is it a different approach for you coaching European guys, knowing kind of their background, knowing what's different over there, or is it a similar approach?
Well, I definitely have a comfort with most of their cultures. So maybe there's some things, that are more relatable. But all in all, I mean, I think high-level basketball is a global game. And so you look at the makeup of nearly every roster. NBA, heavy international influence. College, significant, international influence. So anymore, I mean, I think it's kind of similar everywhere. I don't think, you're having these deals where you don't know how to coach international players because you haven't had them. I mean, and I think having international players, American players, just having the diversity of backgrounds makes for a really cool locker room. And it's something I always tell our guys they need to enjoy. I mean, they need to enjoy getting to know people from a different country that have a different religion. I think, it teaches them how to be world citizens. And at the end of the day, I think that's pretty important.
That's no better example of that than the current roster for this year's team. You have, whether it's Christian Koloko from Cameroon, Adama from Paris, you've got some Lithuanians.
He's not from Paris. He's
from Le Mans.
Yeah,
Le Mans. Home of the 24-hour race we learned
it is the
at Media Day.
Oh, nice. Good.
But let's flash forward and travel back here to Tucson, Arizona, McKale Center. Take you back, Coach, to your introductory press conference on the floor of McKale. Your first time back in as not on the opposing sideline, as it were, but you had a handful of games in McKale as an assistant for Gonzaga. Is there a specific memory or fond memory, I would say, of that environment, of experiencing it from the other side?
Winning. I mean, that was the best memory I had. But, and then I think, I don't know, it might have been about 2013 or maybe 15. I mean, it might have been, maybe, I'm really bad with years. We had a great battle over here. I think it was an overtime game, and it was an awesome battle. And it was cool. It was cool being in a place where basketball meant so much, and you could feel it on the other bench, and you knew, when the game got going, the full force of McKale came down upon your shoulders, and it makes it a special place to compete, whether you're home or away. And it's just so cool to be a part of something that means so much to so many people. And it's something that I think about every day, and it's something, it's a responsibility, that I'm going to be accountable for.
You've talked about this in the past you see a lot of similarities between Tucson and Spokane, a college town versus what I would say maybe a big college town of what I see Tucson as. Now that you've been here and you've lived here for a little bit longer, what are some of those parallels you see or parts you enjoy that from both cities?
Limited traffic, great people, and no one's pretentious down here. You know what I mean? And so I think you feel people are very comfortable in their own skin, and they're not judging other people, and they're not trying to be something they're not, and I just think that's great. A great part of a community that I want to be. And it's something like that. I don't want to be in a flashy community where people are trying to outdo each other, so to speak. So no, it's been great. It's been great, and the one common denominator that I found is people love Arizona basketball here, and that's awesome.
Now, you've talked a little bit about this at Media Day and your pedigree, as it were, of playing fast, some of the fast top-scoring offenses at Gonzaga. When you see that rolled out there and you can see, hey, this is the offense I want to run, this is what good offense looks like, how would you describe that to a fan? What's something a fan should look for in good offense under Tommy Lloyd?
Well, I mean, I don't think the goal ever is to lead the country in scoring. I think the goal is just to get great shots possession by possession, and offensively, and I don't think it's crazy to think that playing fast gives you more opportunities to do that. I mean, you get the ball up the court early, maybe you get a bunny, something easy happens, you get a numbered break, something like that. Or you get a wide open three because the defense hasn't, matched up in transition. And then, once we get in the half court, you want to move the ball and you want to move bodies, and during that whole time, we're looking for easy opportunities. So I just think when you push the ball and flow right into your offense, it gives you a greater likelihood of getting a good shot, within the shot clock. And so that's just how I've always thought. So it's not about like playing fast because we want to lead the nation in scoring. It's because I think it's the best way to put pressure on the defense and get the most opportunities. And to be honest with you, it's just kind of it's the way I know best and the way I'm most comfortable with.
And another focal point of your media day session was your joy of coaching big men. You've had obviously some great ones at Gonzaga, but what's a favorite part of coaching big men to you?
Well, coaching big men is like mowing your yard. I know people don't do that much in Tucson, do they?
That's a bad example here.
It's a bad example here, but you should. I mean, a lot of people like to mow their yard when they're busy. They work out, but you see instant progress. I mean, you can see progress. Every turn you take. So you can really see results, and if you don't mow your yard very often, it looks pretty bad. So big men take a lot of work, but when you put the work in, I think you can get pretty consistent results, and it's fun. It's fun being able to work on something and seeing things translate pretty quickly. So I've always liked it, and I just think it's an advantage, and I think for the most part, bigs are underutilized in the game today, and so it's to me there's just a lot of advantages to playing through and with big guys. So let's take advantage of that.
What's the opposite side of that coin? What's your favorite part of coaching guards and wings?
Just the creativity. How you can teach guards. A lot of them are pretty creative thinkers, but then you can really hone in and focus on, okay, you're being creative, but is that being impactful? And then just finding that fine line between being a creator and doing things that are impactful that you can recreate over and over and over again. A lot of the times challenges with guards is, for them, they're a little bit like artists. Every possession is a blank canvas. So they come down and they do something, crazy or whatever you want to call it, and then maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. And if it works out, you're like, can you recreate that again? And so it's just, I love the challenge of helping them be creative, but then finding that sweet spot to where they can be creative but impactful and do things over and over and over and over again.
We hear a lot about, and we've heard it from some of the current guys on the roster, a pregame routine, what they do. And you haven't coached your first game yet, but what is the Coach Lloyd pregame routine going to be here?
For me or the players?
For you.
Probably just relaxing a little bit and just making sure my mind's clear, and I got a full understanding of what we want to do, and and have my plan B's and plan C's well thought out and hopefully able to execute. I've never been a really nervous guy at games. I mean, of course you get a few butterflies, but the way I've always thought is, if the game starts at 7, it starts at 7. So it don't matter if I'm nervous or not. So why put myself through that anguish and that anxiety? Hopefully, I've felt good about the prep, and I love games. I mean, games are what it's all about. I mean, that's the test, and I love competing in games and going against other good teams, because these other coaches are really good too, and they try hard. So it's a great challenge. I love that. And then if things go well, feeling good about it, and then figuring out, okay, why did they go well? What did we do that helped them go well? And then can we recreate that? And then, and the same thing goes for losing. I know as crazy as that sounds, but losing's part of the process too. And if you're doing this and thinking you're just going to win every game, you're crazy. I mean, you're not going to be a happy person. So the losing part is, you get that pit in your stomach, and it's not a good feeling. But then peeling back the layers and trying to figure out how to fix things it's fun, and it's an awesome challenge, and it's one of those things that I think coaches have a little bit of a sickness sometimes. And, I probably got it just like all the rest of them. And your mind's always going, and is it ever good enough? I don't know. There's things to fix and this and that. And then, getting under the hood and, getting your hands dirty is a lot of fun.
in that pregame routine of thinking and focusing, or maybe it's when we get up at home that day or on the drive-in, does the playlist come in? Is there music we were going to listen to on the way in? And what's on the Spotify or Apple or Pandora playlist for you?
Well, I mean, I always start with two. I mean, the Beastie Boys and Beck. I mean, they'll always be the staple. This part of my life, I'm kind of definitely feeling a Tom Petty flow. But being a local Tucsonian, I just gotten to know recently the lead singer from Midland. He's a Tucson guy, actually from Sonoyta, and so you throw a little bit of all that in there, and that's usually a good mix. You got some little hopefully Tucson positive karma. Some Beastie Boys wisdom in there, some Tom Petty storytelling, and some Beck. He's got a little bit of everything. So, that's probably as crazy as I'm getting.
So Mike Andrea brought that Tucson music flair to home games from Linda Ronstadt. I don't know if you know.
I have
Tucson.
Heard that.
So whether it's
how would that be pregame music? Would that be good?
If you went with her cover of the Rolling Stones' "Tumbling Dice," you'd be all right.
Anything else? It's just one song on repeat?
No, she's got some other ones. You can go with the duets with Neville or her bilingual albums if you wanted to really go with it.
Wow.
That's what's played at Hillenbrand to start off every home game under Mike Andrea. We'll see if that continues. But the Tom Petty, solid. Beastie Boys, are we going ill communication or Hello Nasty? What side of the spectrum of Beastie Boys?
All of them. Maybe the in sound from Way Out. Maybe we're just going all instrumental. Paul's Boutique's probably my favorite. Okay. If you made me pick one.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably the one I'm picking, but I love them all.
Well, we're not going to top Paul's Boutique for this conversation, so that's the way to end it right there, Coach Lloyd. Want to thank you for joining the BearDown podcast. Thank you for your time. Paul's Boutique, Tom Petty, maybe Linda Ronstadt in the future.
I'm definitely open-minded.
All righty.